If you look at the charts, you'll see that that is very, 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 very close to the square root of the golden ratio. I mean, it's basically the golden ratio. Once again, the golden ratio.
Egypt. What is this measurement to the Angkor Wat to Egypt? Well, close to the golden ratio. Exactly, the golden ratio. That's a very close number to the golden ratio, you know? Are not just connected geographically through a line, but are also connected mathematically. Look, the math! The math is the key. It's telling us all. It's telling us we're all connected. People, wake up. Wake the f. Welcome to Second Earth Alternative. This is your host, Felipe Osario. I want to start off by saying that this episode is not for the faint of heart. Not only is this topic completely not accepted by mainstream academia, the information I'm about to present to you can be paradigm shifting. Perhaps as important as knowing who you are, this episode is about knowing where you come from. Are humans a tumultuous lost species on the cusp of discovering new potentials for our future, or is everything already assembled, pre-planned so to speak, as if our deepest aspirations as a species is thwarted by bars we're meant not to see? And as I peel my eyes away, I suddenly remember how the moon is the same size as the sun, at least from our perspective. 400 times smaller, 400 times closer. What a funny coincidence. Out of 181 known moons in the solar system, this is the only one that creates a full solar eclipse, and it just so happens to be the only planet we know to harbor intelligent life that can make use of it. Now, I say make use of it because it's phenomena like eclipses that allowed ancient astronomers like the Mayans to use it as a benchmark for the notion of cosmic time. Eclipses also afforded scientists like Albert Einstein the possibility of proving theories like the theory of relativity. If our moon couldn't blot out the stars so perfectly, who knows how long it would have taken to prove Einstein's theories. In this episode, we'll be going over the idea that perhaps in the beginning of our civilization, we were indeed guided by some extraterrestrial force. Not just any ET, but a specific one with scales, teeth, and horns. Sounds crazy, right? Well, I can tell you that this is not a fable. Now, I don't have all the answers, but having discovered by random chance 21 Chinese pyramids on Google Earth, I can tell you that there is a pattern to all these monuments, and surprisingly, a common theme. For example, I discovered that in China, these pyramids seemingly line up in a linear way. Now, upon closer examination, I was startled to see that there was a river that ran across the path of these pyramids, just like in Egypt. Does this imply that the presence of water is necessary for the functionality of the pyramid? If we were to draw a circumference for the line between Angkor Wat and the other Cambodian monument, Preah Vihear, and we were to go the very opposite side of the world, as in the exact opposite side, well, we would reach Nazca Plateau. That line just happens to hit Easter Island as well. Now take that same line and from Easter Island go exactly halfway around the world and you hit Mohenjo Daro in Pakistan. Now running across the same line in a westward direction, we hit Persepolis in Iran, the city of in Iraq, and for those who are unfamiliar, that's the fabled city of the Anunnaki. Then of course we hit the Great Pyramid of Giza, then we hit the lands of the Dogon people, possibly Atlantis, which is being claimed by some channels, and then the Amazonian tribe of Serpent, which is not mentioned by any channel. And of course we end at the Nazca Plateau with various Incan sites all situated halfway around the world from Angkor Wat. Now if you think that this is all coincidence, let me add some icing to this cake. Let's go back to the Nazca Lines. By mere accident, I discovered that by following this exact Nazca line, you can actually reach Teotihuacan in Mexico, which is a complex of pyramids that mirrors the solar system and Orion's belt. Now to add to that, Teotihuacan just happens to be the exact distance from the Pyramid of Giza as Nazca is to the Pyramid of Giza. It just so happens that the ratio of the distance from Nazca to Angkor Wat and Nazca to the Pyramid of Giza is the golden ratio. And mind you, this is all in the same line. The ratio of the distance from Nazca to Egypt and Angkor Wat to Egypt also happens to be exactly the golden ratio. Now going along on the same line, take the distance from Egypt to Easter Island and divide that by halfway around the world? Yep, you guessed it. That also equals the golden ratio. And if you didn't know, the Pyramid of Giza was designed with dimensions that yield many golden ratio patterns. Now, if you're thinking, how is this all possible? Well, I definitely don't have all the answers, but I did find a common theme, a concept not much talked about, but surprisingly enough to call this episode the Dragon Line. So let's go ahead and take a look at some artifacts associated with these ancient sites and show you what I mean. So the obvious question is, why would so many cultures spanning the entire circumference of Earth, lined up in a single line, be seemingly worshipping the same creature? Now I want you to open up your eyes a little bit, because this won't come easy. Ever heard of the idea that elites worship the occult, possibly satanic idols? Well, occultists like Aleister Crowley often made mention of a deity called Baphomet. Historically speaking, this deity first came into the public light when the Knights of Templar were tortured by French King Philip IX in 1307. This deity is often associated with Satanism, but the main reason why I'm showing you this is not because of its biblical implications, but to analyze its symbolism. Look at the animals that it's associated with. We got the goat, the lion, and the serpents. As we have just demonstrated in the city of Ur, we have this deity. However, in Persepolis, the same deity looks like this. Now take a look at the symbols associated with it. To me, the connection seems very clear. Whatever the ancient people were worshipping seems to also mirror the elites, or what the Knights of Templar are being accused of worshipping. And if you listen carefully to the creation mythologies, these same creatures were also associated with our creation. Remember the talking serpent, Lilith? And it's not like the elites necessarily keep this information hidden from the public. Take a look at the symbol for the Alfa Romeo, for example. It just happens that the symbol of a car company that caters to elites mirrors the exact representation of a dragon eating a person, almost identical to the representation of the Aztec god Kukulkan that we see in the Pyramid Teotihuacan that we have already showcased. If you didn't know, so is the Statue of Liberty. Let's watch how she has progressed throughout history. Shocking, I know. So what do others say about these creatures? Let's take a look.
Okay, so now let's get to the part where it ties in with what you believe, which is, I would say, slightly more controversial. Let me see if I understand this right. That everything we really know about what is going on in our world and all the institutions like government, religion, banking, organized crime. They really are all part of a, I guess you'd call it a conspiracy that reptilians...
Well, I call them interdimensionals.
Okay, but I read what you wrote.
Yeah.
Your words. These reptilians from the constellation Draco have interbred with humans, and they are living amongst us. There are people like the Pope. You talk about George Bush, his father, the president.
Yep.
The royal family in England, Tony Blair. They take human form, but behind closed doors, they can shape-shift back to their reptilian form. I need to know how you know this.
That he's talking about things so different from the norm. He's going to be ridiculed by reflex action. I mean, I used to be a journalist, mate. I used to be a television presenter. I knew what the bloody consequences were of talking about this stuff. I mean, are you kidding? Whoa, he thinks the world's run by lizards? You have to be true to yourself. And what I do is I let the information guide me, not preconceived idea.
So as you can see, the reptilian alien theory isn't so silly after all. It seems to be backed up by an uncanny association with ancient monuments, some structures that in modern times we have yet to figure out how to build. So you mean to tell me that the most impressive monument ever uncovered in human history just happens to be something we can't figure out what it's meant for? And to think that these pyramids are not just in one culture, but many cultures, mirroring each other in astronomical alignments, geographical alignments, and possibly even engineering schematics. So why is it so crazy to point out the obvious observation that these cultures with structures we don't understand fully seemingly worship the same god, the dragon, or as others would say, reptilians? The Mayans call it Quetzalcoatl, feathered serpents. Strange that only recently have we discovered the presence of feathers in dinosaurs. And the recent coincidence that the site of Atlantis, as is being claimed by some channels, just happens to lie inside that line. And we discovered this after our research. Well, that's at least something to think about. So next time a friend tells you that the reptilian theory is just banana pants crazy, well, tell him or her to throw away that Christopher Columbus book and watch this video. Now, if you appreciated this content and would like to see more, don't forget to subscribe. This is Felipe Osorio, signing out.